When Darius King used his master key that Tuesday night, he had no idea he was about to walk into the most powerful woman in the building. Half-dressed, vulnerable, and about to become the center of a scandal that would either destroy them both or prove that love knows no boundaries. What started as a simple maintenance call quickly spiraled into edited security footage, false accusations, and a choice that would force a wealthy CEO to risk her empire for a man society said she could never have. But when the real truth finally surfaced, it wasn't just reputations on the line. It was two hearts that had found something worth fighting the entire world for. The question wasn't whether they could survive the lies and prejudice thrown at them, but whether they were brave enough to choose love when everything else told them to walk away. If you're watching this story unfold, hit subscribe and tell me where you're watching from. Because this tale of courage, betrayal, and unexpected love is just getting started. The night shift at Preston Tower was always quiet. Darius King liked it that way. He walked through the basement maintenance office, checking his watch. 9:15 p.m. Time to clock in. The task board hung on the wall like a to-do list that never got shorter. Darius ran his finger down the white paper. Leaky sprinkler on floor 12, jammed trash chute on floor 9. His eyes stopped at the last item. Executive floor sensor alerts. Monitor closely. Quiet night ahead, said Gabe Alvarez, his supervisor. Gabe was one of the good ones. Fair. Never talked down to anyone. Do your rounds. Don't let security push you around. Darius nodded and grabbed his radio. He pulled out his phone to text his sister Nia. Working till 7 a.m. Lock the door when you go to bed. She was only 22, but she worried about him like a mom. The Preston Tower stood 40 stories tall in downtown. Glass and steel reached up to touch the clouds. Inside, it was all marble floors and fancy lights. Darius had worked here for 8 months. He knew every hallway, every closet, every broken thing that needed fixing. Money was tight at home, it always was. But this job paid the bills. Barely. Darius and Nia split a tiny 2-bedroom apartment across town. She went to community college during the day. He worked nights. They made it work. Darius started his rounds at 9:30. He took the service elevator to floor 12 first. The sprinkler in the women's bathroom dripped steady drops into a bucket. He turned the water off at the valve and tightened the fitting. Simple fix. He made a note on his clipboard. Floor 9 was next. The trash chute was jammed with cardboard. Someone hadn't broken down their boxes right. Darius pulled on his work gloves and cleared the blockage. Piece by piece. It took 20 minutes. As he rode the elevator back down, his radio crackled. King, this is Dalton. Security desk. Wes Dalton, head of building security. The man had ice in his veins and a stick up his back. Darius pressed the radio button. This is King. Go ahead. Need you to check the executive floors more often tonight. We've had some sensor readings. Copy that, Darius said. But something in Wes's tone bothered him. It always did. Like every word was a test Darius might fail. At 10:15, Darius ran into Wes near the main elevators. Wes wore his security uniform like armor. His badge shined under the lobby lights. Maintenance, Wes said. Not Darius, not King, just maintenance. Like that's all he was. Evening, Mr. Dalton. Don't wander upstairs without a work ticket. Executive floors are off limits unless you have a call. Darius kept his face calm. Understood, sir. But inside, his stomach twisted. He'd done this job right for 8 months. Never caused trouble. Never been late. Still, Wes watched him like he was waiting for Darius to mess up. The rest of the evening passed slow. Darius fixed a loose tile on floor 8, changed a burnt-out light on floor 15, checked the main HVAC system in the basement. All routine, all quiet. At 11:40 p.m., everything changed. Darius was finishing his notes when his radio buzzed loud. Alert, alert, door ajar, executive floor corridor E. He grabbed his master keyring and clipboard. Protocol was clear. Check the alert, log the response, fix what was broken. The elevator ride up felt longer than usual. Darius stared at his reflection in the shiny doors. His work uniform was clean, but old. His boots had been resoled twice. He looked tired. He felt tired. The executive floor was a different world. Thick carpet, dim lights, everything whisper quiet. Rich people's quiet. Darius stepped into Corridor E and looked around. A small red light blinked near a door panel. His handheld device beeped. Panel not responding, the screen read. Simple enough. The door's smart lock had glitched. Darius walked to the door. The corridor layout looked the same as the service floors. Same distance between doors. Same numbered panels. But the signs were smaller up here. Fancier. Harder to read in the dim light. He knocked on the door. 3 light taps. "Maintenance," he called out. "Hear about the door alert." No answer. The building was mostly empty this late. Maybe it was just a storage closet. Maybe someone had left it open by mistake. Darius pulled out his master key. Protocol for a door ajar alert was clear. Check inside. Make sure nothing was wrong. Lock it back up. He turned the key and pushed the door open. The world stopped. This wasn't a storage closet. This was someone's home. A beautiful apartment with soft lights and expensive furniture. And in the middle of it stood a woman. A white woman with blonde hair. She was changing clothes. A gym bag sat on the floor beside her. She'd just pulled off a sweatshirt. She wore only a sports bra and yoga pants. Her head snapped toward the door. Her green eyes went wide with shock and fear. Darius froze. His breath caught in his throat. His hands started shaking. "Oh, God," he whispered. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." He snapped his eyes away, looked at the floor, looked at the ceiling, looked anywhere but at her. His whole body moved backward like something had pushed him. "The door alert," he stammered. I thought this was a closet." The panel said, "I knocked. I called out." The woman grabbed a robe from a nearby chair. Her face was red. Angry and embarrassed and scared all at once. "Get out," she said. "Get out right now." "Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I'm leaving." Darius backed through the doorway. His hands shook so hard he almost dropped his keys. He pulled the door shut with a soft click. Darius stood in the hallway breathing like he'd run a mile. His heart hammered against his ribs. Sweat beaded on his forehead. What had just happened? How had he gotten the wrong door? The alert came from this corridor. The panel was right there, blinking red. Above him, a small security camera watched from the corner. Its red light blinked steady and calm. Inside the apartment, Claire Whitmore double-locked her door and leaned against it. Her hands pressed against her hot cheeks. She'd never felt so exposed. So vulnerable. Claire was 29 years old, and the CEO of a tech company. She lived in the penthouse of Preston Tower. She was used to being in control. Used to being respected. Used to feeling safe. This felt like none of those things. But as her heart slowed down, something strange happened. She remembered the man's face. How quickly he'd looked away. How his whole body had moved backward. How his hands had shaken. He hadn't looked at her. Not really. The moment he saw what was happening, he'd turned away. Still, this couldn't happen. Word would spread. People would talk. Her reputation, her company, everything she'd worked for could be damaged. In the hallway, Darius pulled out his radio. His voice shook a little. "Maintenance to base." "Go ahead, King." Gabe's voice crackled back. "Responded to door alert on Executive Corridor E. Possible lock panel glitch. Door may be misidentified in the system." He wrote it down exactly like that on his clipboard. The truth. Nothing more. "Copy that. Any issues?" Darius looked at the closed door. The woman inside was probably calling security right now. This was about to become a big problem. "I need to call security," he said. There was a situation. Darius knew he should report it, even though Wes would make it ugly, even though it might cost him his job. It was the right thing to do. He called the security desk. "Security. Dalton speaking." "Mr. Dalton, this is Darius King. Maintenance. I need to report an incident." "What kind of incident?" Wes's voice got cold and sharp. "I responded to a door alert. Executive floor. I used my master key as protocol requires. But the door led to a resident's apartment, not a service closet. There was a resident inside." Silence stretched across the line. Then Wes spoke. Each word felt like a trap. "You entered a resident's apartment without permission?" "I followed protocol for a door alert. I knocked first. Called out that I was maintenance. When no one answered, I used the master key." "And what did you see inside?" The question hung in the air. Darius closed his eyes. "A resident was present. I apologized and left immediately. I'll need to pull the footage. Don't go anywhere. I'm sending someone up." The line went dead. Darius stared at his radio. Footage. Of course there was footage. The camera in the corner had seen everything. Back in her apartment, Claire's phone buzzed. A text from her assistant, Evie Park. "Your mom called the office. She's trying to reach you about tomorrow's board meeting." Claire ignored the text. She stared at her door, thinking about the maintenance man's face. He'd looked ashamed, scared, not dangerous. But that didn't matter. What mattered was perception, image, control. All the things that kept her world steady and safe. 7 hours later, Darius dragged himself up 3 flights of stairs to his apartment. The elevator had been broken for 2 weeks. His legs felt like lead. His head pounded. Nia sat at their small kitchen table with her laptop, books scattered around her like fallen leaves. She was studying for a test in her accounting class. She looked up when he walked in. "You look like you saw a ghost." Darius dropped into the chair across from her. Worse than a ghost. What happened? He told her everything, slowly, carefully. The door alert. The wrong door. The woman. The camera. Wes's cold voice on the phone. Nia closed her laptop. "You did nothing wrong. You followed the rules. You reported it honestly. It doesn't matter what I did. It matters what it looks like. Then we make sure the truth comes out. Write down everything. Times. What you said. What she said. Everything." They spent the next hour writing it all down. A timeline. Simple and clear. Darius's handwriting was careful and neat, like everything else in his life. At the same time, Claire sat in her penthouse kitchen with a cup of coffee she didn't want. Evie had arrived early for their usual morning meeting. "You seem distracted," Evie said. She was 33 and had worked with Claire for 3 years. She could read Claire's moods like a book. "A staff mistake happened last night," Claire said. "I'm handling it." "What kind of mistake?" "The kind that needs to stay quiet." Claire's voice was firm, final. Evie nodded, but her eyes stayed worried. Claire never hid things from her, not work things. At 10:10 a.m., Darius's phone buzzed. A text from Tony, another maintenance worker. "Security asking questions about you. They say you were on the CEO floor." Darius felt his stomach drop to the floor. It was starting. The rumors, the questions, the looks. He'd been through this before. At his last job, 3 years ago. Someone had accused him of stealing tools. He hadn't done it. He'd proved he hadn't done it. But the shadow followed him until he had to quit. Now it was happening again. At 1:30 p.m., Claire sat in the building's small conference lounge. She was on a video call with investors, but she couldn't focus. Her mind kept drifting to the night before. Evie slipped her a note. "Security is questioning maintenance about last night." Claire ended the call early. I need to step out, she told the investors. Family emergency. She walked down to the building's admin office. Through the window, she could see maintenance workers coming and going near the service elevators. Then she saw him, the maintenance man from last night. He stood by the elevator, talking quietly with an older Hispanic man in a supervisor's uniform. Claire's heart raced. She could turn around, walk away. Let security handle it. Let the rumors fade on their own. Or she could talk to him, find out what kind of man he really was. She walked toward the service area. Darius saw her coming. His whole body went rigid. The woman from last night, here, looking right at him. Gabe noticed his reaction. You okay? The CEO, Darius whispered. That's her. Claire stopped a few feet away. She wore a business suit and heels. Her blonde hair was pulled back neat and professional. She looked like money, like power, like everything Darius was not. Could I speak with you privately? She asked Darius. Gabe looked between them. Everything okay here? It's fine, Claire said. Just a building matter. Darius nodded to Gabe. I'll catch up with you later. Claire led him to a quiet corner near the mailroom, away from listening ears, away from watching eyes. I want to apologize for last night, Darius said before she could speak. He stood straight, hands at his sides. It was a mistake. I followed the door alert protocol, but I should have been more careful. Claire studied his face. She'd expected him to make excuses, to blame the system or his supervisor or anyone else. Instead, he took responsibility. I need your word that this stays between us, she said quietly. Of course, ma'am. I mean completely private, no matter what anyone offers you. Darius frowned. Offers me? Money. A better job. Whatever. I don't want your money. His voice got harder. I just want to keep my job and be treated fairly. Something in his tone made her look at him closer. Really look at him. She saw pride there, and fear, but also dignity. I believe you weren't trying to see me, she said quietly. I'll make sure the truth is known. But even as she said it, fear crept into her voice. What would people think? What would they say about her judgment? About her security? Darius heard the hesitation. He'd heard it before. When people promised things they might not keep. Thank you, ma'am, he said. I hope you mean that. As Claire walked away, Wes Dalton watched from across the lobby. His eyes were narrow and suspicious. He'd just witnessed the CEO talking privately with the maintenance worker who'd, accidentally, entered her apartment. Wes pulled out his phone and started typing a text to building management. This situation needed more attention. A lot more attention. Back at the service elevators, Gabe waited for Darius with worried eyes. Want to tell me what that was about? Gabe asked. Darius looked around to make sure no one could hear. Last night's incident. She wanted to talk about it. And? She says she believes me. Says she'll make sure the truth comes out. Gabe studied his face. But you don't believe her. I want to. But rich people, they say things they don't always mean. Maybe this one's different. Maybe, Darius said, but his voice didn't sound convinced. That evening, Darius clocked in for another shift. The task board looked the same. The building felt the same. But everything was different now. Other maintenance workers looked at him sideways. Whispered conversations stopped when he walked by. Someone had been talking. Someone always talked. At 9:45 p.m., Wes appeared in the maintenance office. His security uniform was pressed sharp. His badge caught the fluorescent light. King, I need to ask you some follow-up questions about last night. Gabe stepped forward. He already gave you a full report. That was preliminary. This is official. Darius felt every eye in the room watching him. What do you need to know? How long were you inside the apartment? Maybe 10 seconds. Less than that. What did you see? The question hung in the air like smoke. Darius felt his face get hot. I saw that I'd made a mistake. I apologized and left. The resident was present? Yes. Was she dressed? The room went dead quiet. Darius felt his hands clench into fists. I looked away immediately. I didn't see anything inappropriate. Wes wrote something on his notepad. We'll be reviewing the security footage. If your story doesn't match what we see, my story will match, Darius said, because it's the truth. After Wes left, the maintenance office stayed quiet for a long time. Finally, Tony spoke up. Man, you're in deep trouble. I didn't do anything wrong, Darius said. Doesn't matter. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong skin color. Gabe shot Tony a look. That's enough. But Darius knew Tony was right. He'd been here before. Different job, same story. Someone would make him the bad guy. Someone always did. Meanwhile, 3 floors up, Claire paced her apartment. She'd tried to work, tried to watch TV, tried to read. Nothing helped. Her mind kept going back to the maintenance man's face. Darius. That was his name. She'd promised to help him. But what if helping him hurt her? What if the board found out? What if her mother found out? Her phone rang. Evie's name flashed on the screen. Hey, Claire answered. I heard something disturbing today, Evie said. About security investigating a maintenance worker. Something about the executive floor. Claire's stomach dropped. What did you hear? That someone might have been looking where they shouldn't. Claire, is this connected to whatever happened last night? Claire closed her eyes. The rumors had already started. In a few days, they'd be everywhere. Her name, her reputation, everything she'd worked for, all of it hanging by a thread. I can't talk about this over the phone, she said. Then I'm coming up. Evie, don't... But the line was already dead. 10 minutes later, Evie knocked on Claire's door. She looked worried and determined. Claire let her in and double-locked the door behind her. Okay, Evie said. Tell me everything. And so Claire did. The gym session. Coming home tired. Changing clothes. The door opening. The maintenance man's shocked face. His immediate retreat. Evie listened without interrupting. When Claire finished, she was quiet for a long moment. He didn't look? Evie finally asked. No. He turned away immediately. And he reported it himself? According to security, yes. Evie nodded slowly. So, an honest man made an honest mistake, and now security is trying to destroy him for it. I promised him I'd make sure the truth comes out. Good. Because if you don't, they'll railroad him, and you'll have to live with that. Claire stared out her window at the city lights below. Somewhere down there, Darius was working his shift, probably wondering if he'd have a job tomorrow. She'd made him a promise. The question was, did she have the courage to keep it? The next morning came too fast. Darius sat at his kitchen table staring at a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. His phone buzzed every few minutes with texts from co-workers. Word was spreading through the building like wildfire. Tony. Security pulled the footage. Wes looks happy about something. Miguel. Stay strong, man. We got your back. Tina. Heard they're calling it a serious breach. Sorry, Dee. Nia walked into the kitchen already dressed for her morning classes. She saw the texts over his shoulder and shook her head. They're trying to scare you, she said. Don't let them. Maybe I should just quit. Find another job before they fire me. And prove their point? That you did something wrong? Nia sat down across from him. You told the truth. You documented everything. Fight for yourself. At Preston Tower, Claire paced her office like a caged animal. Through her window, she could see the maintenance trucks in the parking lot. Somewhere down there, Darius was probably wondering if he'd survive the day. Evie knocked and entered with a stack of papers. Your 10 a.m. meeting got moved to 11. Something about security needing to use the conference room. Claire's stomach twisted. Security? Wes Dalton requested it. Said he's reviewing critical footage with building management. The footage. Claire had forgotten about the security cameras. Whatever was on that video would tell the real story, or at least Wes's version of it. I need to see that footage, Claire said. You're the CEO. Just ask for it. If I ask for it now, it looks like I'm trying to cover something up. Evie sat down. Or it looks like you're trying to get to the truth. At 9:30 a.m., Darius got the call he'd been dreading. Gabe's voice was careful and sad. I need you to come in early today. There's going to be a meeting. What kind of meeting? The kind where you might want to bring someone with you. Darius felt the floor drop away. Am I fired? Not yet. But Wes has been making noise. Says the footage shows things. What things? I don't know. I haven't seen it. But he's got building management all worked up. Darius closed his eyes. When's the meeting? 2:00. Conference room B. After Gabe hung up, Darius sat in his quiet apartment wondering how his life had changed so fast. 2 days ago, he was just a maintenance worker trying to pay his bills. Now he was the center of a storm that could destroy everything. At 11:15 a.m., Claire's phone rang. Her mother's name flashed on the screen. Marla Whitmore never called during business hours unless something was wrong. Hello, Mother. Claire, I just had a very disturbing conversation with Gerald Morrison from the building management company. Claire's blood went cold. Gerald Morrison sat on 3 different boards with her mother. If he was talking, word would spread through their entire social circle by lunch. What did he say? Something about a security incident involving your apartment. A maintenance worker who... Claire, please tell me this isn't what I think it is. Claire looked out her office window at the city below. Everything she'd built, her company, her reputation, her independence, it all felt fragile suddenly. It was a mistake, Mother. A door alert malfunction. Nothing more. Gerald seemed to think there was more to it than that. He mentioned footage. The footage will show exactly what I said. A maintenance worker doing his job and making an honest mistake. Silence stretched across the line. Then Marla spoke, her voice sharp with warning. Claire, you cannot be naive about this. Your reputation is everything. If there's even a hint of impropriety. There wasn't any impropriety. It doesn't matter what actually happened. It matters what people think happened. You need to distance yourself from this immediately. Distance myself how? Let building management handle it. Don't get involved. Don't make statements. Just let it fade away. Claire thought about Darius sitting in that meeting at 2 p.m., alone and scared, while people decided his fate based on lies and assumptions. What if letting it fade away means an innocent man loses his job? That's not your responsibility, Claire. But it felt like her responsibility. She'd looked into Darius's eyes and seen his honesty. She'd made him a promise. Did promises only matter when they were convenient? After her mother hung up, Claire sat in her chair, feeling smaller than she had in years. Evie knocked and came in with lunch, a salad Claire had no appetite for. You look terrible, Evie said. My mother knows about the incident. How? Building management is talking, which means by tonight, everyone will know. Evie sat down across from her. So what are you going to do? What my mother said. Stay out of it. Let building management handle it. And watch them destroy that maintenance worker? I have to protect myself, Evie. I have a company to run. People depending on me. Evie leaned forward. What about your promise to him? I was scared when I made that promise. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking more clearly than you are right now. At 1:45 p.m., Darius walked into Preston Tower through the service entrance. He'd never felt so alone. His work boots echoed off the concrete floors as he made his way to conference room B. Gabe was waiting for him outside the room. "You okay?" "No, but I'm here." "Remember what we talked about. Tell the truth. Don't let them twist your words." Through the window, Darius could see Wes setting up a laptop. 3 men in suits sat around the conference table. Building management. They looked like they'd already made up their minds. "Gabe," Darius said quietly, "if this goes bad, it won't go bad. The truth is on your side." But as Darius looked through that window at Wes's satisfied smile, he wondered if truth would be enough. Conference room B felt like a courtroom. Darius sat on one side of the long table. Wes and 3 building managers sat on the other. A laptop screen glowed between them like evidence waiting to be revealed. Gerald Morrison, the head of building management, cleared his throat. He was a thin man with gray hair and cold eyes. "Mr. King, we're here to discuss the incident that occurred Tuesday night." "Yes, sir. Mr. Dalton has reviewed the security footage from that evening. Before we proceed, is there anything you'd like to add to your original statement?" Darius felt sweat beading on his forehead. "No, sir. I told the truth the first time." Morrison nodded to Wes, who turned the laptop around. "This footage is from the camera in Executive Corridor E, Tuesday night, 11:58 p.m. The screen showed a black and white hallway. Darius watched himself walk into frame, approach the door, and knock. He watched himself use the master key and push the door open. Then the image jumped. It skipped forward to show him backing out of the doorway, his face twisted with shock and embarrassment. "As you can see," Wes said, "Mr. King entered Ms. Whitmore's apartment and remained inside for several minutes." Darius felt his heart stop. "That's not right. I wasn't in there for minutes. It was seconds, maybe 10 seconds. The footage doesn't lie, Mr. King. The footage is wrong, or it's been edited." Darius pointed at the screen. "Look at the timestamps. They jump from 11:58 to 12:02. What happened to those 4 minutes?" Wes and Morrison exchanged a look. "The system sometimes has minor glitches in the recording," Morrison said, "but the essential facts are clear. The essential facts are that I was inside for seconds, not minutes, that I turned away immediately, that I reported the incident myself." "Why should we believe your version over what we can see with our own eyes?" asked another manager. Darius looked around the room, 4 white faces staring at him with suspicion and judgment. He'd been here before. Different room, different men, same story. "Because I'm telling the truth," he said quietly. "Mr. King," Morrison said, "given the serious nature of this incident, we have no choice but to suspend you pending further investigation." The words hit Darius like a punch to the stomach. "Suspend me? Without pay, until we can determine the full extent of what happened. How long?" "That depends on what our investigation reveals." Darius stood up slowly. His legs felt weak. "I did nothing wrong." "That's for us to determine," Wes said. "Please turn in your badge and keys to security before you leave." Outside the conference room, Gabe was waiting. He took one look at Darius's face and knew. "Suspended?" Darius nodded, not trusting his voice. "This is wrong. We need to fight this." "With what?" "They have footage. Edited footage, but still. Then we get the real footage. The unedited version." "How?" Gabe was quiet for a moment. Then his face hardened with determination. "I have an idea." Claire was in her office when Evie burst through the door without knocking. Her face was flushed with anger. "They suspended him." Claire's stomach dropped. "Who?" "Don't play dumb. The maintenance worker. Darius King. They suspended him without pay, based on edited security footage." "How do you know it was edited?" "Because I have friends in building operations. The timestamp jumps 4 minutes. Convenient, don't you think?" Claire sank into her chair. "He's going to lose his job." unless someone with authority demands to see the real footage. Evie, I can't. Yes, you can. You're the CEO of the biggest company in this building. You have pull. And if I use that pull, people will ask why I care so much about one maintenance worker. So let them ask. Claire stared out her window at the city below. Somewhere out there, Darius was probably wondering how he'd pay his rent, how he'd take care of his sister, how his life had fallen apart because of one moment of bad luck. My mother said to stay out of it. Your mother doesn't have to live with herself if an innocent man gets destroyed. You don't understand, Evie. My reputation will survive. His might not. Evie walked to the door, then turned back. You know what your real reputation should be? Someone who stands up for the truth. Someone who protects people who can't protect themselves. After Evie left, Claire sat alone with her thoughts. She could call Gerald Morrison, demand to see the full footage, insist on a fair investigation, or she could do nothing. Stay safe, let the storm pass. She picked up her phone and started to dial Morrison's number, then stopped, started again, stopped again. Meanwhile, Darius walked through the Preston Tower lobby, carrying a small box with his personal items. Other workers watched him with sympathy or curiosity. He felt like he was wearing a sign that said, "Guilty." At the security desk, Wes waited with a satisfied smile. "Badge and keys, please." Darius placed them on the counter without a word. "This could have gone easier for you," Wes said, "if you'd been honest from the start." "I was honest. The footage says different. Your edited footage says different." Wes's smile faded. "That's a serious accusation. It's a serious situation." As Darius walked toward the exit, he passed the elevators that led to the executive floors. Somewhere up there, Claire Whitmore was probably grateful that her problem was being handled quietly. He'd trusted her promise. But rich people made promises they couldn't keep all the time. That evening, Nia paced their small apartment like a caged tiger. "They can't just fire you for doing your job." "They didn't fire me. They suspended me." Same difference. No pay means no rent money. Darius sat at their kitchen table with his head in his hands. "Maybe I should call some other buildings. See if anyone's hiring. With a suspension on your record, good luck. So what do you want me to do? Fight. Get the real footage. Prove they're lying. How? I'm just maintenance. They're management." Nia stopped pacing and looked at him. "What about the CEO? You said she promised to help." Rich people say lots of things. Maybe she meant it. Maybe she didn't. Nia sat down across from him. "Dee, you can't give up. Not like this. Not again." He looked at his sister's determined face and felt something stir inside him. Something that had been buried since his last job, his last false accusation, his last defeat. Maybe it was time to stop running. Maybe it was time to stand and fight. Gabe worked late that night. The building was nearly empty, just a few security guards making rounds. He sat in the maintenance office with a cup of cold coffee, thinking about Darius and that edited footage. 20 years he'd worked in building maintenance. He knew every system, every protocol, every person who had access to what. And he knew one thing for certain. Security cameras didn't just glitch for exactly 4 minutes. Someone had edited that footage. The question was who and why and how to prove it. Around midnight, Tina Martinez from the overnight cleaning crew knocked on his door. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who'd worked in the building for 5 years. "Heard about Darius," she said. "It's wrong what they're doing." "Yeah, it is." "I was cleaning the executive floor Tuesday night, around midnight." Gabe looked up from his coffee. "You saw what happened?" "I saw him go to that door, knock, use his key, then come right back out, shaking like a leaf. Couldn't have been in there more than a few seconds." "Would you be willing to say that officially?" Tina was quiet for a moment. She had 3 kids and couldn't afford to lose her job. If it would help Darius, yes. But my word against management? That's not going to be enough. What if we had the real footage? You think there's a backup somewhere? There's always a backup. Question is where and how to get it. The next morning, Claire couldn't concentrate on anything. She sat through 2 meetings without hearing a word, signed documents without reading them. Evie kept shooting her worried looks. At 11 a.m., her phone rang. Gerald Morrison's name appeared on the screen. Ms. Whitmore, I wanted to update you on the security incident involving your apartment. Claire's heart raced. What's the update? We've suspended the maintenance worker pending investigation. I want to assure you that your privacy and safety are our top priorities. What did the investigation find? The security footage confirms that the worker spent several minutes in your apartment, given the circumstances. Several minutes? That's impossible. Silence on the line. I'm sorry? He wasn't in my apartment for several minutes. It was seconds, maybe 10 seconds. The footage clearly shows, I was there, Mr. Morrison. I know what happened. Another pause. Perhaps in the shock of the moment, your perception of time was affected. Claire felt anger rising in her chest. My perception is fine. I want to see that footage myself. I don't think that's necessary. I'm the victim of this alleged incident. I have a right to see the evidence. Of course. I'll arrange for you to review it this afternoon. After hanging up, Claire sat back in her chair. Morrison's tone had changed when she pushed back. He'd gone from confident to defensive in seconds. That afternoon, Claire sat in the same conference room where Darius had been suspended. Wes Dalton operated the laptop with obvious reluctance. This is the relevant footage from Tuesday night, he said. Claire watched the black and white video. She saw Darius approach her door, knock, use his key, enter the apartment. Then the image jumped forward to show him leaving, clearly shaken. Stop, she said. Play that again. Wes reluctantly replayed the sequence. The timestamp jumps from 11:58 to 12:02. What happened to those 4 minutes? Sometimes the system has minor recording glitches. 4 minutes isn't minor. It's the difference between an innocent mistake and a serious violation. Morrison cleared his throat. The essential facts remain clear, Ms. Whitmore. The essential facts are being hidden by this convenient glitch. Claire stood up. I want to see the complete, unedited footage. This is all we have. Then I suggest you find the rest of it. As she walked toward the door, Morrison called after her. Ms. Whitmore, I hope you understand the sensitivity of this situation. For everyone involved. Claire turned back. Are you suggesting I should stay quiet about what I witnessed? I'm suggesting that sometimes the truth is more complicated than our first impressions. In this case, Mr. Morrison, the truth is exactly what my first impression told me. That maintenance worker did nothing wrong. That evening, Claire called Evie at home. I saw the footage. It's definitely been edited. What are you going to do about it? I don't know. If I push too hard, it looks like I'm involved somehow. You are involved. You're the only witness to what really happened. Claire walked to her apartment window and looked down at the city lights. My mother says I should stay out of it. Your mother's not the one who has to live with letting an innocent man get destroyed. What if helping him destroys me instead? Then at least you'll be destroyed for doing the right thing. The next morning, Darius sat in a coffee shop near his apartment, circling job listings in the newspaper. Most required experience he didn't have, or references he couldn't provide. Word about his suspension would spread through the building maintenance community quickly. His phone buzzed with a text from Gabe. Can you meet me at Murphy's Diner at 2 p.m.? I have news. Murphy's Diner was a greasy spoon near the building where maintenance workers sometimes grabbed lunch. When Darius arrived, Gabe was sitting in a back booth with Tina Martinez. Tina saw what happened Tuesday night, Gabe said without preamble. She was cleaning the executive floor. Tina nodded. I saw you go to that door and come right back out. Couldn't have been more than 10 seconds. Darius felt a flicker of hope. Would you tell management that? If it helps, yes. But we need more than my word. Gabe leaned forward. What if I told you I know where the backup security files are stored? Where? Building Operations has a secure server that backs up all security footage automatically. Real time, no edits. The question is how to access it. That sounds like something that could get us all fired, Darius said. You're already suspended. Might as well go down fighting. That afternoon, Claire made a decision that surprised even her. She called Gerald Morrison and demanded a face-to-face meeting. They met in his office on the 15th floor. Morrison sat behind a mahogany desk that probably cost more than Darius made in a year. Ms. Whitmore, thank you for coming. I trust you understand why we had to take action regarding the maintenance worker. I understand that you suspended an innocent man based on edited footage. Morrison's smile tightened. The footage shows what you want it to show. I was there, Mr. Morrison. That man was in my apartment for seconds, not minutes. Memory can be unreliable in traumatic situations. My memory is fine, and I want that man reinstated immediately. Morrison leaned back in his chair. I'm afraid that's not possible. The investigation is ongoing. Then end the investigation. I'm telling you what happened. With respect, Ms. Whitmore, you're emotionally involved in this situation. Perhaps not the most objective witness. Claire felt her temper flare. Emotionally involved? How? You had a private conversation with the worker the day after the incident. That suggests concern beyond what one might expect. The implication hit Claire like a slap. They were suggesting she was romantically involved with Darius, that her defense of him came from something other than basic fairness. Are you questioning my character, Mr. Morrison? Not at all, but appearances matter in situations like this. Claire stood up slowly. You're right, appearances do matter, and it's going to look very bad when it comes out that you suspended an innocent man based on doctored evidence. I wouldn't go making accusations you can't prove, Ms. Whitmore. Watch me. As she walked toward the door, Morrison's voice followed her. Think carefully about the path you're choosing. Your reputation is at stake here. Claire paused at the door. My reputation will be just fine. I'm more worried about yours. That evening, Claire sat in her apartment feeling more alone than she had in years. Her mother had called 3 times. Morrison had probably already reached out to his board contacts. By tomorrow, the whispers would start. But for the first time since Tuesday night, she felt like she could look at herself in the mirror. At the same time, across town, Darius sat with Nia at their kitchen table, planning their next move. Gabe thinks he can get access to the backup server tomorrow night, Darius said. What if you get caught? Then I'm no worse off than I am now. Nia reached across the table and took his hand. I'm proud of you for fighting this. Don't be proud yet. We haven't won anything. You stopped running. That's a win all by itself. Outside their window, the city sparkled with lights. Somewhere in those lights was Claire Whitmore, probably regretting her promise to help. Probably wishing she'd never heard his name. But maybe, just maybe, she was also planning to keep that promise. Tomorrow would tell. Thursday night came with a steady rain that drummed against the windows of Preston Tower. The building felt empty and cold. Most of the office workers had gone home hours ago, leaving only security guards and the overnight cleaning crew. Gabe Alvarez sat in the maintenance office, pretending to work on routine paperwork, but his eyes kept checking the clock. 11:30 p.m. Time to move. He'd spent the last 2 days studying the building's security systems, every camera location, every access point, every blind spot. If the real footage existed somewhere, he was going to find it. The building operations server room was on the 8th floor, behind a door marked, Authorized Personnel Only. Gabe had legitimate access. Maintenance sometimes needed to check the environmental controls for the servers, but what he was planning to do there wasn't exactly legitimate. He rode the service elevator to the 8th floor, carrying a tool bag and a clipboard. Just a maintenance supervisor doing his job. Nothing suspicious about that. The server room was cold and full of humming machines. Banks of servers lined the walls, their LED lights blinking like electronic stars. Gabe found the security server cluster in the back corner. He wasn't a computer expert, but he knew enough to navigate the backup systems. Every camera in the building fed into these machines. Every moment was recorded and stored, including Tuesday night at 11:58 p.m. on Executive Corridor E. It took him 20 minutes to find the right files. The backup system organized everything by date and location. He scrolled through folders until he found what he was looking for. Executive Floor E, Camera 07, Tuesday 11:55 p.m. to 12:10 a.m. The file was larger than the edited version Wes had shown. Much larger. That meant more footage. Gabe copied the file to a thumb drive and erased his access logs. If anyone checked, they'd see routine maintenance activity. Nothing more. By midnight, he was back in his office, staring at the real footage on his laptop. What he saw made his heart race with hope and anger in equal measure. The timestamp showed 11:58:15 when Darius approached the door. He knocked 3 times, clearly announced himself as maintenance, waited for a response. When none came, he used his master key and pushed the door open. At 11:58:32, exactly 17 seconds later, Darius backed out of the apartment, visibly shaken. He immediately pulled out his radio and made his report to the maintenance office. 17 seconds. Not 4 minutes. Not even 1 minute. The edited version had deleted those crucial 17 seconds and jumped to 12:02, making it look like Darius had been inside for over 4 minutes. Gabe leaned back in his chair, feeling vindicated and furious. Someone had deliberately destroyed an innocent man's reputation. The question was what to do about it. At the same time, across town, Darius lay awake in his bed, listening to the rain. Nia was asleep in the next room, but he couldn't stop his mind from spinning. Tomorrow was Friday. By Monday, if nothing changed, his suspension would probably become a termination. Word would spread through the maintenance community. No one would hire him. He thought about Claire Whitmore's promise. I'll make sure the truth is known. Maybe she'd meant it. Maybe she hadn't. Rich people lived in a different world, where promises were suggestions and consequences belonged to other people. His phone buzzed with a text. Gabe's name appeared on the screen. Got it. The real footage. Call me first thing tomorrow. Darius sat up in bed, suddenly wide awake. Gabe had found something. Maybe there was hope after all. Friday morning brought more bad news for Claire. She sat in her office reading an email from her mother that made her stomach twist. Gerald Morrison called me last night. He's concerned about your emotional state regarding this maintenance incident. I've arranged for Dr. Patterson to see you this afternoon. Sometimes trauma manifests in unexpected ways. Dr. Patterson was the family psychiatrist, a kind man who'd helped Claire through her father's death years ago. But this wasn't about trauma or emotional instability. This was about her mother trying to silence her by making her look unstable. Evie knocked and entered without waiting for permission. We have a problem. Just one? Morrison's been calling your board members, suggesting you're under stress, that maybe you need some time away from the company. Claire felt the walls closing in. They're trying to force me out. Not force you out, just discredit you enough that your word doesn't matter. Same result. Evie sat down across from her. There's something else. I got a call from someone named Gabe Alvarez. He says he works maintenance at this building and has evidence about what really happened Tuesday night. Claire's heart jumped. What kind of evidence? He wouldn't say over the phone, but he wants to meet with you today. Set it up. Claire, if Morrison finds out you're meeting with building maintenance, let him find out. I'm tired of playing their game. At 11 a.m., Darius met Gabe at Murphy's Diner. The place was nearly empty except for a few truck drivers and an old man reading a newspaper. Gabe slid a laptop across the table. Watch this. Darius stared at the screen as the real footage played. He watched himself approach the door, knock, announce himself, enter the apartment. 17 seconds later, he watched himself back out, clearly shaken. 17 seconds, Gabe said. That's all you were inside. They edited out those 17 seconds and made it look like 4 minutes. Darius felt relief and rage wash over him in equal waves. Relief that the truth existed. Rage that someone had tried so hard to destroy it. Who did this? Had to be someone with access to the security system. Someone who knew how to edit footage without leaving obvious traces. Wes. That's my guess. Question is, what do we do about it? Darius stared at the screen. We take it to building management. Morrison's not going to want to hear this. It makes his people look bad. Then we take it higher. Higher like where? Darius thought about Claire Whitmore's promise. Maybe it was time to see if rich people could be trusted after all. The CEO, Claire Whitmore, she said she'd make sure the truth came out. You think she meant it? I guess we're about to find out. That afternoon, Claire met Gabe in a small park 6 blocks from Preston Tower. She wore jeans and a baseball cap, trying to look like just another person walking in the park. Gabe sat on a bench with a laptop bag beside him. He was older than she'd expected, with gray hair and kind eyes that reminded her of her father. Ms. Whitmore, thank you for coming. Call me Claire, and thank you for reaching out. Gabe opened his laptop and showed her the real footage. Claire watched in silence as the truth played out on the screen. 17 seconds, just as she remembered. Someone edited the original footage, Gabe explained. Made it look like Darius was in your apartment for over 4 minutes. Who would do that? Someone who wanted to destroy a good man for reasons I can't understand. Claire stared at the laptop screen. Here was proof. Real, undeniable proof that Darius had done nothing wrong. That he'd been telling the truth all along. What do you need from me? Your support. When we present this to building management, they're going to try to dismiss it. But if you're there, backing up what the footage shows, they'll have to listen. Will you do it? Claire thought about her mother's warnings, about Morrison's threats, about her company and her reputation and everything she stood to lose. Then she thought about Darius, sitting at home wondering if his life was over because of one innocent mistake. Yes, I'll do it. Monday morning came like a storm. Claire sat in conference room B again, but this time she wasn't alone. Gabe sat beside her with his laptop ready. Across the table, Gerald Morrison and Wes Dalton looked like men who'd been backed into a corner. Morrison cleared his throat. Ms. Whitmore, I appreciate your continued interest in this matter, but I'm not sure why we're revisiting a closed case. Because new evidence has come to light. Claire nodded to Gabe, who opened his laptop. This is the complete, unedited footage from Tuesday night, Gabe said, pulled directly from the backup server. Wes shifted uncomfortably in his chair. I'm not sure what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. Gabe hit play. The real footage filled the screen. Everyone watched in silence as Darius approached the door at 11:58. 15, knocked, announced himself, entered the apartment, and backed out exactly 17 seconds later. When it finished, the room was quiet except for the hum of the air conditioning. Morrison spoke first. This appears to be the same footage we reviewed before. No, Claire said firmly. The footage you showed me last week jumped from 11:58 to 12:02. This footage shows what happened during those missing 4 minutes. I don't understand what you're suggesting, Morrison said, but his voice had lost its confidence. I'm suggesting that someone deliberately edited the original footage to make an innocent man look guilty. All eyes turned to Wes, whose face had gone pale. "This is ridiculous. Why would anyone do that?" "That's what I'd like to know," Claire said. Morrison looked between the laptop screen and his security chief. "Mr. Dalton, can you explain the discrepancy between this footage and what you showed us last week?" Wes loosened his tie. The system sometimes compresses files automatically. Maybe some frames were lost in the compression. 17 seconds of footage doesn't just disappear in compression, Gabe said. This was deliberate editing. "You're accusing me of—" "I'm not accusing anyone," Gabe said calmly. "I'm presenting facts. Someone with access to the security system edited this footage. Someone who knew how to make it look like a technical glitch." Morrison stared at the frozen screen. His careful, controlled world was falling apart in front of him. Even if this footage is accurate, the fact remains that a maintenance worker entered a resident's apartment without permission. "He had permission," Claire said. "He was responding to a door alert as per building protocol. He knocked, announced himself, and used his master key when no one answered. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. And when he realized his mistake, he left immediately and reported the incident himself," Gabe added. "That's not the behavior of someone trying to hide something." Morrison was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Finally, he spoke. "What do you want?" "I want Darius King reinstated immediately," Claire said, "with back pay. And I want a public acknowledgement that he did nothing wrong." "And if we refuse?" Claire leaned forward. "Then this footage goes to the media, along with the story of how building management tried to destroy an innocent man with fabricated evidence." Morrison looked at Wes, who was staring at his hands. The silence stretched until it became unbearable. "Mr. Dalton," Morrison said quietly, "I think we need to discuss your future with this company." By Tuesday afternoon, word had spread through Preston Tower like wildfire. Darius King had been reinstated. Wes Dalton was gone, quietly terminated for policy violations. The real story, about edited footage and false accusations, leaked through the building staff faster than management could contain it. Darius sat in Gabe's office, holding his badge and keys like precious treasures. It felt surreal to be back, to have his name cleared, to know that people knew the truth. "How you feeling?" Gabe asked. "Like I can breathe again." "Good, because there's a lot of work waiting for you. Building doesn't run itself." Darius smiled. "Good. I'm ready to get back to normal." But normal felt different now. Walking through the building, people looked at him differently, some with respect, some with sympathy, a few with something that looked like admiration. Tony from maintenance clapped him on the shoulder. "Glad you fought back, man. Showed them they can't just push us around." Tina from the cleaning crew gave him a hug. "I'm proud of you for not giving up." Even some of the office workers nodded to him in the hallways. Word had gotten out about what really happened, about how someone had tried to frame him, about how he'd fought back and won. But the person he most wanted to see wasn't anywhere to be found. Claire Whitmore was in her office, staring out the window at the city. The last few days had been a whirlwind. Morrison's grudging apology, Wes's termination, her mother's angry phone calls about causing unnecessary drama. Her company was fine, her job was secure, but something had changed inside her. She'd learned something about herself that she couldn't unlearn. Evie knocked and entered with a stack of papers. "The Peterson contract is ready for your signature, and your mother called again. I'll call her back later." She seemed, displeased about the Morrison situation. Claire turned from the window. "My mother thinks I embarrassed the family by getting involved." "Did you?" "Maybe, but I can live with that kind of embarrassment." Evie smiled. "For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Even though it could have destroyed everything I've worked for, especially because of that." That evening, Darius finished his shift feeling lighter than he had in weeks. The familiar routine of checking systems, fixing problems, and maintaining the building felt like coming home. As he waited for the elevator, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned to see Claire Whitmore walking toward him. She wore jeans and a simple sweater instead of her usual business attire. She looked nervous. "Mr. King, could I speak with you for a moment?" Darius nodded, suddenly aware of his work uniform and the fact that he probably smelled like cleaning supplies. They walked to the same quiet corner where they'd talked before. But this time, everything was different. This time, they were two people who'd been through something together. "I wanted to apologize," Claire said, "for not standing up for you sooner, for letting you go through that alone. You did stand up for me, in the end. I almost didn't. I was scared about what people would think, what it would cost me." Darius studied her face. "But you did it anyway. Because it was right, and because—" She paused, searching for words. "Because you didn't deserve what they were doing to you. Thank you for keeping your promise." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Claire spoke again. "I learned something about myself through all this." "What's that?" "That I'd rather be hated for doing right than loved for doing wrong." Darius smiled. "That's a good thing to learn." "What about you? What did you learn?" "That sometimes it's worth it to fight, even when you think you can't win." The elevator arrived with a soft ding. As the doors opened, Claire hesitated. "Maybe sometime, if you're not too busy, we could have coffee, as friends." Darius looked at her, this powerful woman who'd risked everything to stand up for him, and felt something new stirring in his chest, something that felt like possibility. "I'd like that." But the city's gossip mill never sleeps. By Thursday, whispers had started in the social circles that mattered to people like Claire's mother. Whispers about the young CEO who'd gotten too involved with a maintenance worker. Whispers about inappropriate relationships and poor judgment. Claire heard about it first from Evie, who'd heard it from a contact at another company. "They're saying you're romantically involved with him," Evie said, dropping into the chair across from Claire's desk. Claire looked up from her laptop. "Based on what?" "Based on the fact that you defended him so publicly, and that you demanded the meeting that led to his reinstatement." "So standing up for an innocent person means I must be sleeping with him? In their world?" "Pretty much." Claire leaned back in her chair, feeling tired. What are they saying exactly? That the whole thing was staged, that you two planned it to create some kind of romantic drama, that your judgment is compromised. That's insane. Insane doesn't matter when it comes to reputation. That afternoon, Claire's mother arrived at her office unannounced. Marla Whitmore swept in wearing designer clothes and a look of deep disapproval. "We need to talk." Claire dismissed Evie with a nod and closed her office door. "Hello, Mother." "Don't hello mother me. Do you have any idea what people are saying about you?" "I can imagine. Miranda Ashford called me this morning. She heard from Gerald Morrison that you've been seen around the building with that maintenance worker. We had coffee once, in the building cafe, during lunch. It doesn't matter what you actually did. It matters what it looks like you did." Claire walked to her window and looked down at the street below. Somewhere down there, Darius was probably working his shift, unaware that her world was starting to judge them both for a relationship that barely existed. "What do you want me to do, Mother? Pretend he doesn't exist?" "I want you to be smart. End whatever this is before it destroys everything you've built. There's nothing to end. We're friends. You're a CEO and he's a maintenance worker. You can't be friends. The optics are impossible." Claire turned to face her mother. "So because he's poor and I'm not, we can't know each other. Because you live in different worlds, and people will never accept that those worlds can mix. Maybe it's time people learn to accept it." Marla's voice got sharp. This isn't about changing the world, Claire. This is about protecting what you have. What if what I have isn't worth protecting if it means I can't be friends with good people? Then you're more naive than I thought. After her mother left, Claire sat alone in her office feeling more isolated than ever. Every choice seemed to lead to another impossible choice. Stand up for what's right and lose everything, or protect everything and lose herself. At the same time, 3 floors down, Darius was learning about the rumors from Tony. People are talking, man, about you and the CEO. Darius looked up from the HVAC panel he was repairing. What kind of talking? The kind that says you two got something going on, that maybe the whole thing was some kind of setup. That's crazy. Crazy don't matter when it comes to gossip, and gossip like this can hurt both of you. Darius felt his stomach tighten. He'd been through this before, being accused of things he didn't do, having his life dissected by people who didn't know him. But this was different. This could hurt Claire too. What are people saying exactly? That she's slumming, that you're using her, that neither of you can be trusted. That evening, Darius sat in his apartment with Nia, trying to process what was happening. So, let me get this straight, Nia said. She risks her reputation to save your job, and now people think that means you're sleeping together? Apparently doing the right thing makes people suspicious. So what are you going to do? I don't know. Maybe I should stay away from her. Let things calm down. And let the gossips win? It's not about winning. It's about protecting her. Nia leaned forward. Dee, you can't live your life worrying about what other people think. You learned that this week. This is different. This could hurt her career, her whole life. And that's her choice to make, not yours. But as Darius lay in bed that night, he couldn't stop thinking about the rumors, about the damage they could do, about the fact that Claire had already sacrificed enough for him. Maybe it was time for him to sacrifice something for her. Friday evening came with the kind of November cold that cuts through clothes and settles in your bones. Darius finished his shift early and found himself standing outside Preston Tower, looking up at the lighted windows. Somewhere up there, Claire was probably working late again. He'd seen her in the building twice this week, but they'd only nodded to each other from a distance. The easy friendship that had started to bloom between them had withered under the weight of other people's opinions. He pulled out his phone and typed a message. Can we talk? Then he deleted it without sending. What was he supposed to say? That he was sorry people were gossiping about them? That he thought maybe they should stop being friends to protect her reputation? That he was falling for her but knew it was impossible? His phone buzzed with an incoming text. Claire's name appeared on the screen. Are you free tonight? I need to talk to someone who won't judge me. Darius stared at the message for a long moment. Then he typed back. Murphy's Diner in 20 minutes. See you there. Murphy's Diner was nearly empty when they arrived. Claire had traded her business clothes for jeans and a sweater again. She looked tired and sad, and more beautiful than Darius had ever seen her. They sat across from each other in a back booth, nursing coffee neither of them wanted. I heard about the rumors, Claire said quietly. Yeah, me too. I'm sorry. This is exactly what I was afraid would happen. Darius looked at her across the table. Are you sorry we became friends? No. But I'm sorry that being my friend is hurting you. It's not. I can handle gossip, but I'm worried about what it's doing to you. Claire wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. My mother thinks I should end our friendship, for both our sakes. Maybe she's right. Claire looked up sharply. Is that what you want? Darius met her eyes. What I want doesn't matter. What matters is what's best for you. Don't I get to decide what's best for me? Of course, but you should decide based on facts. And the fact is that people like me don't get to be friends with people like you without consequences. People like you? What does that mean? Darius gestured to himself. Poor, black, working class, Take your pick. That's not how I see you. I know. That's what makes this so hard. Claire leaned forward. Darius, I've spent my whole life doing what other people expected, following rules that other people made, being careful and safe and appropriate. That's not a bad way to live. It is, if it means giving up the first real friendship I've had in years. They sat in silence for a moment, both thinking about roads not taken and choices that felt impossible. What if we took a break? Darius said finally. Let things cool down. Give the gossip time to die. And then what? Go back to pretending we don't know each other? I don't know. Maybe. Claire stood up abruptly. I should go. Claire, wait. No, you're right. This is too complicated, too hard. Maybe it's better if we just don't. She walked toward the door without looking back. Darius sat in the booth watching her go, feeling like he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life. Outside the diner, Claire sat in her car with tears streaming down her cheeks. She'd fought for him, risked everything for him, and now she was losing him anyway, because the world couldn't accept that two decent people from different backgrounds might care about each other. She pulled out her phone and called Evie. I just made a terrible mistake, she said, when Evie answered. What kind of mistake? The kind where I let fear win. That weekend, both Claire and Darius tried to pretend that everything was normal. Claire worked. Darius worked. They moved through their separate worlds like ships passing in the night. But normal felt wrong, empty, like something important had been lost. Sunday evening, Naya found Darius sitting on their apartment's fire escape, staring out at the city lights. You look like someone who lost his best friend, she said, climbing out to sit beside him. Maybe I did. Or maybe you gave up on your best friend. Darius turned to look at his sister. I was trying to protect her. From what? Gossip? People talking? From being dragged down by me. Nia shook her head. Dee, you don't get to decide what other people can handle. You don't get to make choices for them because you think you know what's best. I was trying to do the right thing. The right thing is being honest about what you want, fighting for it, not giving up because it's hard. Darius looked out at the lights of the city. Somewhere out there, Claire was probably wondering if she'd ever find someone who saw her as more than just her money and status. What if it's too late? He asked. Then you'll know you tried, but what if it's not? As the city sparkled below them, Darius made a decision. Tomorrow, he was going to stop running from the best thing that had ever happened to him, even if it meant facing his fears, even if it meant people would talk, even if it meant risking everything. Some things were worth the risk. Monday morning felt different to Claire. She sat in her office staring at quarterly reports that might as well have been written in a foreign language. The numbers blurred together as her mind kept wandering to Friday night at the diner. The look in Darius's eyes when she walked away. The way his shoulders had slumped like she'd taken something important from him. The way her own heart had broken a little more with each step toward the door. Evie knocked and entered with coffee and concern. You've been staring at the same page for 20 minutes. I made a mistake Friday night. The kind you can fix? I don't know. Maybe I hurt him too much. Evie sat down across from her. Claire, can I ask you something personal? Sure. Do you have feelings for him? Real feelings? Claire was quiet for a long moment. She'd been asking herself the same question for weeks. I think I might. Then fight for it. Don't let other people's small minds ruin something good. What if it ruins everything else? My company, my reputation, my family relationships? What if it doesn't? What if the people who matter actually respect you more for following your heart? Meanwhile, Gabe found Darius in the building's basement, aggressively cleaning equipment that was already spotless. Working out some frustration? Gabe asked. Darius looked up from the wrench he'd been polishing. Something like that. Want to talk about it? Not really. Gabe sat on a nearby workbench. You know, I've been working in buildings like this for 20 years. Seen a lot of people come and go. Rich people, poor people, everything in between. Darius kept polishing. Yeah? And I've learned something. People are just people. Doesn't matter how much money they have or what floor they live on. Good people are good people. Your point? My point is that girl fought for you when it mattered. Risked everything to make sure you got justice. That tells me something about who she is. Darius finally stopped cleaning. And who am I to drag her down? You're a good man who deserves happiness, and maybe she deserves it too. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. Evie burst into Claire's office with excitement. I've been digging into the building's digital archives, the full security footage. Why? Because I wanted to see it for myself. The real footage. All of it. Evie opened her laptop and showed Claire a longer video file. This covers the 20 minutes before and after the incident. Claire watched as the timestamp showed Darius's entire route that night, his careful work on other floors, his immediate response to the door alert, his professional behavior throughout. But what caught her attention was something else entirely. Stop there, she said. Go back. The footage showed Darius in the hallway after the incident, clearly shaken. But more importantly, it showed him immediately pulling out his radio to report what had happened. No hesitation. No attempt to cover up or hide. He reported it right away, Claire said softly, even though he knew it might cost him his job. That's not all, Evie said. Look at this part. She fast-forwarded to show Darius leaving the building that night. Instead of going straight to the exit, he stopped at the security desk and spoke with the guard on duty. Not Wes, but someone else. He made sure his report was logged officially, in writing, with witnesses. Claire stared at the screen. Here was proof of Darius's character in a way that no words could capture. Under pressure, scared and shaken, he'd still done the right thing. Evie, can you do me a favor? Anything. Find out what time Darius gets off work today. At 6 p.m., Claire waited outside Preston Tower's service entrance. She felt nervous and determined in equal measure. When Darius emerged, he looked surprised and wary. Claire, what are you doing here? I wanted to apologize, for Friday night, for running away. Darius glanced around at the other workers leaving the building. Some were already staring. Maybe this isn't the best place to talk. Then let's go somewhere else. Claire, please, just give me a chance to explain. They walked to a small park 2 blocks away. The evening was cold, and Claire pulled her coat tighter as they sat on a bench under a streetlight. I've been thinking about what you said Friday, she began. About protecting me, about consequences. And I realized something. I've spent my whole life being protected. By money, by position, by other people making decisions for me. I'm tired of it. Darius watched her face in the lamplight. What are you saying? I'm saying that if there are going to be consequences for our friendship, I want to choose them myself. Not have them chosen for me. People are already talking. Let them talk. I know who I am. And I know who you are. Darius was quiet for a moment. Who am I? Claire? You're someone who does the right thing even when it's hard. Someone who takes care of his family. Someone who stood up for himself when people tried to destroy him. She paused, gathering courage. You're someone I care about. Someone I don't want to lose because other people have small minds and big mouths. Darius looked at her. This successful, beautiful woman who could have anyone she wanted. Who was choosing to sit in a cold park with a maintenance worker because she believed in something real between them. I care about you too, he said quietly. More than I should probably. Why more than you should? Because you're Claire Whitmore, CEO, rich, powerful, beautiful. And you're Darius King, honest, kind, strong, loyal. She turned to face him fully. In my world, those qualities are rarer than money. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the city humming around them. Finally, Darius spoke. If we do this, if we try to be friends, or more than friends, it's going to be hard. I know. People are going to judge us, both of us. I know. Your family might never accept me. Then they'll have to choose between me and their prejudices. Darius looked at her with something that felt like wonder. You'd risk all that? For me? For us? For the chance to see what this could become? He reached over and took her hand. It was cold from the evening air, but it warmed under his touch. Then I guess we're doing this. I guess we are. As they sat holding hands on that park bench, both of them knew they were crossing a line they couldn't uncross. But for the first time in either of their lives, crossing that line felt like coming home. The next few weeks felt like living in a fishbowl. Claire and Darius were careful, discreet, but they were also honest about their growing relationship. They had lunch together in the building cafeteria. They talked in the lobby where everyone could see them. They refused to hide. The reaction was exactly what they'd expected. Whispers followed them everywhere. Some people were curious. Some were judgmental. A few were genuinely supportive. Tina from the cleaning crew became an unexpected ally. Good for you two, she told Darius one evening. Takes guts to follow your heart when everyone's watching. But the pressure was building from other directions. Gerald Morrison had been replaced as building manager, but his successor made it clear that discretion was appreciated. Claire's mother called daily with increasingly frantic warnings about reputation and social standing. The breaking point came on a Thursday afternoon in December. Claire was in a board meeting when her phone buzzed with an urgent text from Evie. Your mother is here, with 3 other board members. They look serious. Claire excused herself from the meeting and found her mother waiting in her office with Miranda Ashford, Robert Chen, and James Patterson, 3 of the most influential people on her company's board. Mother, what's this about? Marla stood up, her face tight with determination. It's an intervention, Claire. We're worried about you. Robert Chen cleared his throat. Ms. Whitmore, we've been hearing some concerning reports about your personal associations. My personal life is not board business. It is when it affects the company's reputation, Miranda Ashford said coldly. Our investors are asking questions. Claire felt her temper rising. What questions? About your judgment, your stability, your fitness to lead this company. James Patterson, who'd been quiet until now, leaned forward. Claire, we've known you since you were a child. We care about you. But this relationship you're pursuing, it's beneath you. Beneath me how? He's a maintenance worker, Claire. You're a CEO. The optics are impossible. Claire looked around the room at these people who'd helped shape her life, who'd supported her career, who were now asking her to choose between love and everything she'd built. What exactly are you asking me to do? Her mother spoke quietly. End it. Quietly. Professionally. Before it destroys everything you've worked for. And if I refuse? Robert Chen exchanged a look with the others. Then we'll have to consider whether new leadership might be in the company's best interest. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Claire felt everything she'd built hanging in the balance. Her company, her independence, her identity. All of it balanced against one relationship with one man. But as she looked at their faces, cold, calculating, convinced they knew what was best for her, something hardened inside her chest. I see. Claire walked to her window and looked down at the street where Darius was probably working somewhere in the building. Can I ask you all something? Of course. Have any of you met him? Talked to him? Spent 5 minutes getting to know who he actually is? Silence. I thought not. You're judging him based on his job and his skin color, just like people judged me when I became CEO at 29. Remember that? How many people said I was too young, too inexperienced, too emotional to run a company? That's different, Miranda started. Is it? You stood by me then. Told me to prove them wrong. And I did. Claire turned back to face them. Darius King is a good man. Honest, hardworking, loyal. He risked his job to do the right thing. He protected me when I needed protecting, and he stood up for himself when people tried to destroy him. Claire, her mother began. I'm not finished. You're asking me to choose between him and this company. Fine. I choose him. The room went dead silent. If you think my relationship makes me unfit to lead this company, then find someone else to lead it. But I won't be bullied into giving up the best thing that's ever happened to me. James Patterson looked shocked. You're willing to give up everything for a maintenance worker. I'm willing to give up anything for the right person. And he's the right person. Word of Claire's confrontation with the board spread quickly. By evening, the entire building buzzed with rumors. Some said she'd been fired. Others said she'd quit. A few said she'd told the board to go to hell. The truth was somewhere in between. Claire sat in her apartment that night staring at her phone. She'd turned down 3 calls from reporters and 5 from business associates. Her mother hadn't called at all, which somehow hurt worse than if she had. Around 8 p.m., Evie arrived with takeout food and wine. Figured you might not have eaten today. You figured right. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Finally, Evie spoke. So what happens now? I don't know. The board is meeting tomorrow to discuss my fitness to lead. Any chance they'll back down? Some chance. The company's doing well. Stock prices are up. Hard to argue with success. And if they don't back down? Claire shrugged. Then I'll find something else to do. Start over. Any regrets? Claire thought about the question seriously. About standing up for him? No. About waiting so long to do it? Yes. At the same time, across town, Darius sat with Nia in their small living room. The news about Claire's confrontation had reached him through the building's gossip network. She stood up to her whole board for you, Nia said. She shouldn't have had to. But she wanted to. That tells you something about how she feels. Darius stared at his hands. It tells me I might be ruining her life. Or it tells you that you're worth fighting for. What if they fire her? What if she loses everything because of me? Nia leaned forward. Then you'll help her build something new. Together. It's not that simple. Love never is, Dee. But running away from it isn't going to make either of you happy. The next morning, Darius made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. He put on his best clothes, a dark suit he'd worn to job interviews, and took the elevator to the executive floor. Claire's assistant looked startled to see him. Mr. King, is everything all right? I need to see Claire. Is she in? Evie studied his face and saw something there that made her smile. Let me check. Claire looked up when Darius walked into her office. He looked nervous but determined, like a man who'd made a decision he couldn't unmake. Darius, what are you doing here? I heard about yesterday, about the board meeting. Claire gestured for him to sit down. News travels fast in this building. You shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have risked everything. It wasn't your choice to make. I know, but I need you to know something. Darius leaned forward in his chair. If they fire you, it's not your fault. And it's not the end of anything. What do you mean? I mean that whatever happens, we'll face it together, if you want to. Claire felt tears prick her eyes. Even if I'm unemployed and unemployable? Especially then. because then we'd really be equals." She laughed despite herself. That's one way to look at it. At 2 p.m., the board meeting began. Claire sat at the head of the conference table facing 12 people who held her professional future in their hands. But something had changed overnight. 3 board members who hadn't been at yesterday's intervention now sat with stacks of papers in front of them. Robert Chen cleared his throat. "Before we begin, we've done some additional research into this matter." "What kind of research?" "Background checks, character references, the kind of due diligence we should have done before rushing to judgment." Miranda Ashford looked uncomfortable. "Robert, I don't think—" "Mr. King has an exemplary work record. No criminal history. Glowing references from every supervisor he's ever had. He's putting his sister through college while supporting their household on one income." Chen continued reading. "He volunteers at a community center on weekends. He's never been late to work in 8 months. And according to building security, he's the employee who reports maintenance issues most proactively." Claire felt her heart swell with pride. Furthermore, another board member spoke up. "We've reviewed the security footage from the original incident. Mr. King's behavior was exemplary throughout. He did exactly what protocol required and reported the incident immediately." James Patterson shifted in his chair. Character aside, the optics remain problematic. "Do they?" Chen asked. "Because our stock price is up 12% since this story broke. Apparently investors like CEOs who stand up for their principles." Claire looked around the room as the conversation shifted. Not all the board members were convinced, but enough were listening to facts instead of prejudice. The vote, when it came, was closer than anyone expected. 8-4 in favor of keeping Claire as CEO. As the board members filed out, Robert Chen stopped beside Claire's chair. "For what it's worth, I think you're brave, and I think he's lucky to have you. Thank you. Just try to be happy, Claire. Life's too short for anything else." The news broke that evening on the local business channel. Tech CEO keeps job after standing up for controversial relationship. By morning, it had spread to national outlets. Claire woke up to find her phone flooded with interview requests and messages of support from unexpected sources. Several other CEOs called to share their own stories of facing down prejudice. A women's business organization asked her to speak at their annual conference, but the call that mattered most came at 9 a.m. "Claire?" Her mother's voice was quiet, uncertain. "Hi, Mother. I saw the news about the board vote." "Yes." Marla was quiet for a long moment. "I also did some reading about your young man. Background information." Claire's heart raced. And I realized I owe you both an apology. I judged him without knowing him. That was wrong. Mother, I'm not saying this will be easy, Claire. People will always talk. But if he makes you happy, if he's good to you, maybe that's what matters." Claire felt tears streaming down her cheeks. "He does make me happy. Very happy." "Then I'd like to meet him, properly this time. Maybe Sunday dinner?" That afternoon, Claire found Darius in the building's mechanical room, working on the main HVAC system. He looked up when she walked in, wrench still in his hand. "How'd the board meeting go?" "I still have a job." His whole face lit up with relief and joy. "Claire, that's amazing. There's more. My mother wants to meet you. Sunday dinner." Darius's smile faltered a little. "Meet me? Why?" "Because she realized she was wrong about you, and because she wants to understand why I'm willing to fight the world to be with you." Darius set down his wrench and walked over to her. They stood close in the dim mechanical room, surrounded by humming machinery and the honest smell of work. "And why are you willing to fight the world for me?" he asked softly. Claire reached up and touched his face. "Because somewhere between that first terrible night and today, I fell in love with you." The words hung in the air between them. Honest, vulnerable, true. "I love you too," Darius said. "Even though I never thought I'd be lucky enough to say that to someone like you." "Someone like me?" someone brave enough to risk everything for what's right. Someone who sees good in people when the world tells her to look away. He kissed her then, soft and gentle and full of promise. When they broke apart, Claire was smiling through her tears. "So what happens now?" she asked. "Now we figure it out together. One day at a time. Even when people stare? Especially when people stare. Even when it's hard? Love is supposed to be hard sometimes. That's how you know it's real." Sunday dinner at the Whitmore estate was exactly as awkward as expected, and somehow better than either Claire or Darius had hoped. Marla Whitmore had clearly prepared for this meeting like a diplomatic summit. She asked thoughtful questions about Darius's work, his family, his goals. She listened to his answers without the polite dismissal Claire had feared. When Darius excused himself to take a call from Nia, Marla turned to her daughter. "He's not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Someone taking advantage of you. Someone after your money." Marla paused. "He's not, is he?" "No, he's not." "Good, because if he hurts you, I'll have to destroy him, regardless of how charming he is." Claire laughed. "I think he knows that." "Good. A man should know what's at stake." When Darius returned, Marla had one more question for him. "Mr. King, what are your intentions regarding my daughter?" Darius met her eyes directly. "To love her, to support her dreams, to stand by her when things get difficult. And they will get difficult. People will always have opinions about your relationship. Then we'll face those opinions together." Marla studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "I think you will." 6 months later, Claire and Darius had settled into a rhythm that worked for both of them. They took turns cooking dinner in his apartment and her penthouse. They went to movies and restaurants, ignoring the occasional stares. They talked about books and dreams and the future they were building together. Darius had been promoted to building supervisor, working alongside Gabe to manage maintenance for 3 downtown buildings. Claire's company had expanded into new markets, partly on the strength of her reputation for standing up for her principles. They still faced challenges. Not everyone accepted their relationship. Some of Claire's social circle remained cold. Some of Darius's co-workers thought he'd gotten lucky and didn't deserve it. But they'd learned to define success by their own standards, not other people's expectations. On a warm Sunday morning in April, they sat in the same park where they'd first decided to try being together. Darius was reading a book Nia had recommended for her business class. Claire was reviewing quarterly reports on her tablet. "Can I ask you something?" Darius said. "Always. Do you ever regret it? Taking the risk?" Claire looked up from her tablet and smiled. "Which risk? Standing up to the board? Telling my mother the truth? Falling in love with someone people said was wrong for me?" "All of it. Never. Not once." She reached over and took his hand. "Do you?" "Only one thing." "What's that?" "Oh, that it took a door malfunction and a lot of drama for us to meet." Claire laughed. "I don't know. I think it happened exactly the way it was supposed to." "Yeah?" "Yeah. You opened the wrong door and found exactly the right person." Darius squeezed her hand. "We both did." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city wake up around them. 2 people who'd found each other against all odds, who'd chosen love over fear, truth over convenience. They'd learned that courage wasn't loud. It was telling the truth when silence would be easier. That love became real when you chose someone's dignity as carefully as you guarded your own. And when fear was faced with honesty, even a mistake could become the start of something beautiful. The building stood tall against the morning sky, its windows catching the sunlight. Inside, people worked and lived and loved and dreamed. And somewhere in all those stories, 2 people had learned that the best things in life were worth fighting for, even if they started with opening the wrong door.